And before you know it, we'll be back to getting our beloved body mods before you know it, huh? Yeah. A year ago seemed so far away, yet also like it was just yesterday. Hey guys, it's Gretchen, and welcome back to my channel. So it has been a year since everything hit the fan in the world. It has been a year since COVID happened. And about a year ago, I did a video regarding how COVID was gonna affect body mods. And so since it's been a year, and I did not anticipate having to make a year update video at the time of that video, I thought I would go ahead and do kind of an update video on where body mods are in regards to COVID now. Now keep in mind, this is based on the United States experience. I know elsewhere people are still in lockdowns. They keep going back into lockdowns and they come out of them. This is just solely based on United States experience, because that's the only experience I have. So in that video, I discussed how the pandemic was going to affect body mods, the body mod industry, body mod artists, how it was going to play a role in moving forward. So what exactly has changed in the last year in regards to piercings, tattoos, the artists, and the licensed professionals that provide those services? What has happened? Something that is still pretty similar is the fact that a lot of guidelines that were put in place this time last year are still in place currently. Now, most shops have opened back up, but a lot of them are doing appointment only. All of the shops that I frequent, whether they are for tattoos or for piercings, all require an appointment. They do offer, I believe, a day during the week during a set time where they will take walk-ins, but it is very limited. Most shops are requiring that you have an appointment. Even for piercings, I personally have never made an appointment for a piercing. I've always done walk-ins and it's been fine, but the last 2 piercings that I've gotten have all required appointments, which honestly is so much better because then you don't have to sit around and wait forever. Because sometimes that happens whenever I would get other piercings. I'd be waiting, more than an hour and a half before I got it. When you have an appointment, you don't have to wait that long. It's kind of nice actually. So as such, walk-ins aren't as prevalent as they used to be. I don't know if they're gonna be a thing of the past, but I do think that a lot of shops have gotten kind of used to appointment only. I'm sure eventually walk-ins will become a thing again, just is a matter of when. Even if a shop is open back up, there's still some stipulations dependent on the shop on what services they offer. Now I know some shops are still not offering oral piercings or even piercings under the mask. So if you want a septum piercing, some shops aren't offering that. If you want a lip piercing, some shops aren't offering that. That being said, I will be one of the first people to admit that I have gotten an oral piercing during the pandemic. I personally felt very safe once I found out that the shop was offering this service. To me, a tattoo shop is probably one of the safest, most sanitary places that you'll come across. They have to be. They were that way pre-pandemic. Going off of that comfortability is the fact that a lot of shops are not allowing guests to accompany you to your appointments or walk-ins if they're allowed. Prior to the pandemic, shops would allow you to bring a guest or two, depending on if you were getting a tattoo or a piercing or depending on the space. But now shops are saying no guests. And honestly, I feel like that's for the best because a lot of people will end up bringing up their entire entourage for an appointment or a walk-in, and that's just completely unnecessary. It gets in the way. So now shops are saying no guests, and really and truly, that's a good policy to have in place. Now, the only time a guest will be allowed is if you are both getting something done and have an appointment at the same time or around the same time. Going back to when I got my labret pierced, my mom also had a piercing appointment at the same exact time. So yes, we both went into the room together along with the piercer, which is why I felt comfortable getting my lip pierced, pulling my mask down to expose this. It was just my mom in there and it was just the piercer in there, and both of them kept their masks on the entire time. But again, it's all about comfortability and what the shop is comfortable with as well as what you are comfortable with. And again, the reason why shops are asking that people don't bring guests with them is because they're trying to cut down on the amount of people in that space. It's also to free up that space because when you bring guests, suddenly, an area becomes real cluttered. If you have less people, it's a little bit easier for everyone. Shops are still asking a year later, which is good, that if you have been to an area that has seen like an uptick in cases or just is a higher risk area, that you quarantine yourself and reschedule. This is for the safety of everyone involved. Because again, symptoms for COVID aren't gonna pop up right away. You may have traveled to an area, you come back and you feel fine. Those symptoms may not show up for several days. So shops are still relying on their clients to be honest, be truthful about their traveling, and by quarantining themselves and rescheduling, it's better for everyone. The same goes for if you do feel sick, please reschedule. Don't just be like, oh, it's fine, I can push past it and go to your appointment, because then you're also putting your artist at risk and everyone else who is at the shop at the same time you are at risk. That's not fair. More often than not, your artist is gonna be more than willing to work with you to reschedule. They're just happy that you took their health and safety into account when calling to say, hey, I feel a little ill, I think I need to reschedule. Shops are also requiring you to wear masks. That's a no-brainer. You should be still wearing a mask even if you've gotten the vaccine. I personally have gotten the vaccine. I've gotten both doses. Does that mean I'm gonna take my mask off and toss it away? No, I'm still wearing my mask. So shops are still requiring anyone who enters to wear a mask, which makes sense. Something different from this time last year is that it is no longer being recommended for people to not get new body mods. That was something that was being recommended this time last year at the start of everything. People were saying, you know, it's probably fine for you to get new body mods. That being said, it's just better for everyone if we just hold off and don't get new body mods, because we didn't know much about COVID at the time. A year ago, they were just recommending you don't get new tattoos or piercings just to be safe. We didn't know if there could be a correlation or a connection. This is no longer the recommendation. However, people are being reminded to be careful, which is a good recommendation even pre-pandemic. So while some things are a little bit different than this time last year and some things are still pretty much the same, the recommendation now is to just continue to be mindful of what is happening. Continue to take those extra precautions if you're going to a shop, if you have a tattoo appointment or a piercing appointment, or think you can squeeze in a walk-in. Continue to follow any precaution necessary, because it's not just your health you need to think about, it's everyone else that you come in contact with and are around, including your tattoo artist or your piercer. The pandemic is real. It is serious. It's still here a year later. Treat it as serious as it is. So while we're not back to the normalcy that we anticipated we would be, you know, sitting there going like, oh, we'll be back to it before you know it. Not quite. That being said, we can still take part in our beloved body mods. We can get tattoos, we can get piercings, which is great looking back a year ago when appointments were getting canceled left and right. Artists and piercers couldn't do anything during the early months of the pandemic. It's good to see that we're at a place now that is better for everyone that is involved in the body mod community. So basically, what has happened in the past year is that we can still get our body mods. There are just some stricter guidelines in place than there were pre-pandemic. So I'm curious, during the past year of everything happening, have you gotten a body mod at all during that time? I remember the early months where I was supposed to get, ironically, my plague doctor tattoo. That's over here on my arm. I was supposed to get that the very beginning of April. Made that appointment pre-pandemic. Again, very ironic. But then that appointment was pushed to July? June? So only a few months later, but it felt like a lifetime. You know, as a body mod enthusiast, I really was missing getting those body mods, but I still can't even fathom what it was like for the artists themselves, the piercers themselves, who had to take that unwanted break from practicing their craft because of everything going on. So I'm curious, did you get a tattoo at all during this last year? Did you get a piercing at all during this last year? How was the shop you went to? How were their guidelines? It's interesting to see the changes that have taken place and how some of them are kind of good. Like the whole guest policy, yeah, it stinks that you can't bring a guest, but it also cuts down on how many people are in a space at one time. So just let me know what your experience has been like over this past year regarding body mods and everything. Special thank you to my patrons. You can help support the channel on Patreon while having access to videos early, via patron-only content, and more. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big ol' thumbs up. Go on down there and hit that subscribe button, wherever it may be, because I don't know. Even though I do, this is just my shtick now. Also hit that notification bell in case you want to know when I upload, and in case YouTube wants to let you know when I upload, because I would really appreciate it. And until next time, bye guys!